Just talk about
Wow.
Join us.
We're gonna create some distance here. Hello, darling.
We can get closer if you want.
Hi, guys. Nice to be here. Toronto. Wow. I was at the Montreal versus Toronto ice hockey game last night. Nice result for the locals. It was awesome. Actually, that guy was up for a hat trick and they robbed him. What's his name? Yeah, Kapanen? Yeah, he got a hat trick. And they robbed him.
Are you a big hockey fan?
I was about to throw my hat in the ring. Somebody said, you've got to throw your hat in the ring. Like a hat trick. Come on.
I'm not a big hockey fan, so I don't know. Do people do that? Do they throw their hats in?
On a hat trick, yeah. You got to take your hat off and throw it in. I had no idea. Somebody said, you got to throw your hat in. I'm like, what? And they said, you have to do it. You score a hat trick, everyone throws their hats. And I was like, oh, damn it. I like this hat.
I like it.
Okay. There was no goal. Everyone was booing. I was like, yes.
I want to keep my hat. So, Manu, you have so many amazing roles. Let's just start off the panel. We're going to bring it into a Q&A for you guys, but let's just start off the panel. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your favorite roles and something that maybe stands out to you?
Look, life as an actor is not easy. Trust me. It's people can run around and be in Hollywood and run to all the parties and that sort of stuff. But for me, it's a. I'll tell you one thing. I went to Greece last year. Now, there's a place called Epidavros, and Epidavros is the site of the very first amphitheatre. Now, the amphitheatre, of course, is now your couch at home in front of the television, right? But it's the same thing. That philosophy was born in 1000 BC in Greece, and it was invented by people called the Ascipio. And the Ascipio were like a medicine people. They invented apothecary, right? So they were the first people to sort of be branching out with apothecary around Europe. And when they built this amphitheatre, I discovered, they built it because if a person stood in the middle, they could use their voice as medicine. And I found that to be just enlightening, I suddenly realised, I'll tell you a true story. When I was 15, I lost my mother and my brother in two separate car accidents. Some people ask about the scars on my face, and they say, is that makeup for Crixus or whatever, And I said, no, it's a real scar. Because I was in the car with my mother when we were hit by a drunk driver, and our car spun through the air into a telegraph pole. My mother was killed. I was thrown out the side window. I woke up 2 weeks later in a hospital, 2 weeks in a coma. And I actually woke up. And the person next to my bed was my worst enemy from school. This guy that I hated. And he hated me. We were two different dogs. And I then subsequently found out that he'd lost his mother when he was younger. The reason why we had a fight between the two of us is because he was like a Westie, he had like a mullet haircut and wore like death metal t-shirts, and later on he had the loudest cars and kind of like, he liked to play with engines so that war, like his soul was roaring. And I had no idea. I had gel in my hair, I had a beautiful mother, good family, did breakdancing. So him and me were like two different dogs. But then when my mother died, he came to my bedside because he'd lost his mother when he was younger. So as soon as he heard that this person close to him in his life had lost their mother, he came to the hospital bed to be beside me. I based my performance as Crixus on that. And that's why I drove so hard against Andy Whitfield all the time, because I knew at some stage, my producer came to me and he said, Manu, what are you doing? People think Crixus is an arsehole. And I said, great. And there's a kid over there that's about 9 years old, and I'm sorry I said that word here. In the context of Spartacus, it's actually quite tame. These contexts in my life have set the precedence for me to be a committed artist. And whether it be playing Crixus, or whether it be playing Slade Wilson, sliding between being a sort of a semi-father figure to Oliver, and sort of having a weakness. A woman started a love triangle, started a sort of a fatherly revenge mission upon a girl that was killed on an island, and he thought that Oliver Queen was responsible. The next thing he's dying. And but remember this, because there's a funny little thing that always gets forgotten. Oliver gave me the Mirakuru because I was dying, right? So he became, the Mirakuru, sort of enraged, 20-year-old version of me, 20-year-old version of me, out in the streets, in the clubs, at 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to wonder where the hell life is going, destroying me, my soul destroyed by the death of my mother and my brother. These things I know, so I sink them into the roles, right? And I think that's the grey matter. That's the grey matter, and that's why we still go to Epidavros. That's why we still sit on our couch in front of television, because we're looking for story to be the connective tissue, to heal in some way, or to live in some way through heroics, or through sorrow, or through romance, or through all these different sort of story designs. So just as an overview of the roles that I've done in my life, I've been pretty lucky. I've been pretty lucky. Crixus was, I was struggling as an actor for a long time. I was living in Australia, and if I was cast in a television role, I'm not trying to wear a racial, but I would be cast as I remember my first show, I was the brown-haired, tan guy that was trying to steal the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy's girlfriend. Which later on I'd be doing the same thing with Stephen Amell. There are some stereotypes, and trust me, it's funny, but it's actually not funny if you wear it right down to the very reason why we're still on a planet where we actually can't look at, we travel over a border and we feel like we're in a completely strange and isolated world that we don't understand at all. We live on a little ball, we got to tell a bit more stories and share them. But sort of through my career, I've just tried to embrace as much of this world as I can and learn as many stories as I can, learn as many cultures as I can, and try to find the stories that resonate. And if I keep on going with this one question, we're not going to have any more questions. How about that kid?
Yeah, you guys have any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Not yet.
Come on, kid.
I guess, okay, we'll start with some questions here. Do we have a mic, or is it just, okay, we'll just yell.
First off, awesome job playing the greatest villain in Arrow. With that being said, what was your toughest challenge playing Deathstroke?
I thought it was the most recent stuff with the son, having a child, and knowing that somehow the ramifications of the father were what were the cause for the son's own torment, the sins of the father carry on to the son, kind of thing. You know what I mean? That was kind of like something I could really sort of try to, invest my point in my life into. I'm an actor, is what I work as the title, and I've got 3 little girls, and they go, oh, that is an actor, right? And I can't really explain Epidavros to them so well at this stage. I try to, but in the end, this job keeps me away from them so much. When I did Arrow, they were all just starting school in New Zealand. I had to go live for a year and a half in Canada. With only the ability to fly home every 2 to 3 months. And everyone's going like, oh, good on you, Manu, love you, Slade, man, kick ass. And I'm going, where's my kids? But it was starting a career. It was like, I thought I'm doing the right thing. So I'm always counterbalancing that really, really difficult balance between being an artist and being a father. So when that role came up, it was hugely confrontational to me in terms of my own feelings. But that seems to be what I do. I seem to polarize somehow between the roles and through personal experience. And for what it's worth, and if I come to all these different countries and I meet people and they say, oh, like one guy walked up to me a minute ago, right? And he said, I was 350 pounds. And I watched Spartacus, and I don't know, there was a moment when your character died on Spartacus, and I said to myself, I got to go to the gym, I got to fight. And this guy came up, are you here? Where is he? There he is, there's my boy. Stand up, brother, come on, come on. Round of applause for this guy, right? Yeah, good on you, bro. Yeah. You know, but like, you know, your story, you know, like I don't know how to hold responsibility for that other than what I've explained to you, and also the wonderful storylines of that show, and the wonderful performances of every other person in that show, including the crew who did all the production, right? So again, epidavros, healing, wonderful, perfect, you know. I mean, I get guys come to me from Afghanistan, you know. I've met a few guys from different war zones who come and they go like, oh, you know, like I lost half my platoon, you know, got PTSD, but when we were there, we listened to Metallica and we watched Spartacus. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you know. I mean, you know. But at the end of the day, it's something that they can hold on to, they can identify with. There's the loss of brothers in arms, in the midst of battle and war, or fighting, and it's something that they can identify with. But the most important thing to me about that association is not because they were watching the fighting. It's because they were watching Crixus when he was putting his fingers through the bar to touch Navia's hand. Because when they're sitting over there in the middle of a battle going like, what am I doing here? Who am I representing? The United States of Donald Trump. Don't know why am I here? I just want to be home with my wife and kids. I'm scared. You know, it was those levels of Crixus that I like to play, that I knew were the important parts to play. You know, standing in the arena going, oh. I remember when I won the first fight against Octus in the Gods of the Arena, and I finished the scene, and the director came up and goes, oh, it's so good, man. It was like, I felt the energy and everything. About 2 hours later, the rushers had gone up to the producer's room, and my producer came down, and he's like Clint Eastwood. He loves Clint Eastwood movies, right? So, you know, if you're going to be the hero, do it with a very monotone kind of performance. So the same guy that said that I was an arsehole. It's kids, I'm sorry about that. But, you know, there's some people think that the hero is this certain person, right? And I fight against that. I fight against it. Because it's not. Nobody's a hero. Nobody's a villain. Nobody's a hero, nobody's a villain. We're all in between. You know, there's cause and effect. But, you know, there was... Yeah, so he said to me, Manu, you know, I just watched the rushes and you were like screaming and you were like crying. This is Crixus. You know, he's the champion, you know, he has to be seen as having something different. We want him to be the champion, you know. I said, brother, I'm at the beginning, like this is the first time he's killed a man. You know, this fictionally kid. Like, you know, it's the whole world is spinning. There's these people that were spitting on him when he walked into the arena, and now they're chanting his name. He can't comprehend what's going on. But give me the time to grow with this character and go through all of the emotions and the journey, you know. And eventually, you know, I succeeded in convincing, you know, the producer about the journey that I was taking with Crixus. But yeah, it's all those in-between bits. It's not the victories and it's not really the losses. Those are points that you get to act quite the big extremes, but it's all the silent moments, actually. It's all the bits where you're not saying anything that matter. My favourite scene out of all of Spartacus was the last scene. The last scene when I was killed. I'm sorry if there's people who haven't seen Spartacus here, but there was a scene where I was about to get my head taken off by a young Roman boy that had retrieved his sword that I'd gotten in a battle. I was going to take my head off with it. And to be honest, it was my last scene that I was ever going to shoot on Spartacus. The director, sometimes you don't shoot in order, but the director said, listen, you know, it's the end of a long journey for you. We're going to make your death scene the last scene. And then we're going to see you off. And they did a big haka for me, and it was insane. But in this moment of coming onto the set on the last day, I had so many feelings, so many mixed feelings going on, that I didn't know how to play the scene. I got there and I thought, what am I going to do when I'm on my knees looking at Navia? And I guess I was thinking selfishly. I was thinking, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to process it? And this is the great thing about when you can work with your fellow actress or actor in a sharing world, when the channels open up. Because when I walked into the studio, I saw Cynthia Adai Robinson. She was standing at the end of the studio, and I looked at her, and she was crying. And this is like we're half an hour out from filming the scene. And I walked over and I said, Cynthia, what's wrong, darling? And she said, you know, Cynthia's parents had separated when she was a kid. She hadn't seen her father all of her life almost. You know, I think as a baby he left. And she'd located him that year prior. She'd gone to England and met with him, and he had cancer and was dying already. And he died maybe 3 months before this scene. And she was sitting there and she said to me, Manu, I feel like I'm losing you or Crixus, and all I can feel is losing my father. All I can feel, that's the thing that's coming out of me. So as an actress, she was tapping right into that personal part of herself. And suddenly I realized, I don't have to do anything here. I just have to look at her and be there for her. And not even Navia, for Cynthia. And if anybody watches that scene, she's sitting there, just tears are flowing out of her eyes. She perfectly channeled, as an artist, the emotion. And anybody who was sitting there for the medicine of feeling it, and the beautiful music that was composed for that scene, I mean, I cried. Men walk up to me and they say, your death scene, I cried. You weren't crying for me, you were crying for Crixus and all that story, but Cynthia anchored that scene big time. And I remember just sitting there, just staring at her, like just looking at Cynthia. I wasn't acting, I wasn't doing anything. Even when I watched that scene, I think to myself, like, wow, that's real. That's really getting into the role, you know, where you just give it all up, and you've got that channel to connect to. Okay, did I segue off into it?
It's very interesting knowing what goes on behind the scenes and rewatching those scenes later and knowing after you've talked to certain actors and hearing the emotional stories that actually go behind it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, if you're a real Spartacus fan here, look up Crixus and Navia. And if you scroll through, it's not very far down the page, you'll see a photo of me leaning in and I'm kissing Cynthia on the forehead, and she's just stopping crying. And that was shot about 3 minutes after they called cut, or 2 minutes after they called cut.
Really?
Yeah, and to me, I didn't even know the photographer had taken that photo.
Yeah.
We didn't really know until a few weeks later, and he came up and he said, here's a shot I got of you and Cynthia on set at the end of that scene. And you'll see that Cynthia's like just in this depth of, and she's gone on to do wonderful things. She's doing some great films now. But yeah.
How long does it take you to get yourself back together after scenes like that? Like, do you go home for a couple days after and still feel it?
I actually got a scholarship to go to the Lee Strasberg School. I went to New York and I met Anna Strasberg, and the Strasberg School is method. And method acting's got a certain, thing where you sit there and you bring all of these things to life again, and you put it out there. It can be a very overwhelming method in that it can have somebody become so self-focused that it can work in the reverse of what it's really meant to be doing, which is to creating a natural path to emotions. Usually people who don't really master it that well, I believe, tune into themselves and then almost don't open up that channel to the other person. I took things from that, but I've gotten to a point in my career where I actually just, I used to be all angsty, as an actor and walk on and be running around and doing all these sort of things to get myself into that thing. And I think that led from being at the method acting school. But I've learned that, I think just in experience and whatnot, now when I go on a set, the most enjoyable thing to me is to go to the crew and go, hey boys, what's going on? You know, and I can sort of be high, you know, having a good time with them, you know, just enjoying the moment, and then not take too long to just get into the thing that I have to do.
Right.
You know, and I think that just it's something that happens over time, you know.
Right. You know how to turn it off. It doesn't linger with you.
Yeah, no. Now when I sort of get into things, I've accepted the artistry. I've spent time doing it, so I don't really have to spend that much time getting the gears into place. You know, I think they say, like, if you spend 20 years doing something, you've kind of got to a point where you can master it. You know,
yeah, or 100 hours.
100 hours, yeah, something like that. Yeah, 1,000 hours, something like that. So yeah, I think I've spent, you know, a good chunk of time doing this. That, you know,
You call yourself an expert now, or master.
Well, you know, you should never say that to yourself.
We'll call you the master of method.
Experienced, you know,
Yeah.
experienced.
Okay, more questions. You have the red hair.
Me?
Hi. Yeah, back there. Yeah.
Hi. Kia ora, firstly.
Kia ora. Where are you from?
I'm from Australia, but I love New Zealand and I've been there a bunch of
Oh,
times.
g'day, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what my question's about. So Slade Wilson is not traditionally Australian. Is that something they planned, or did you bring that to the role?
Good question.
No, that's something that I think they assumed I was Australian. You know, it's like me coming here and going, oh, you're American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they screwed that one up. And I said to them, hey, listen, I'm a New Zealander. But listen, I grew up in Australia, and that's where they got it from. They've read Wikipedia and kind of like the writers did that much investment into my history that they wrote me as an Australian. But to be honest, I mean, to be fair, darling, I grew up in Australia. I was like 5 months, 6 months old when I went to Australia. My mother was Australian, my dad was New Zealand Maori, Irish. Paddy's Day. Yeah, my father fell in love with my mother. He was a singer, and she was a beauty pageant on a float, and he was on a float sort of behind her with his band, and they met and fell in love, and he followed her to Australia. But so I grew up there until I was literally, you know, in my 20s, you know. So a lot of my early, you know, informative and growing years were in Aussie. But no, it's kind of like, it wasn't a misnomer. It was kind of like a, you know, I said, I'm a New Zealander, can I be in the New Zealand Special Forces?
Right? That's what I was thinking anyway. Yeah.
But you know, yeah, it works for me both ways.
Yeah.
What were some of the difficulties of playing a character like Azog, where you couldn't exactly use your face to create the facial expressions?
Probably the most difficult thing about Azog was the fact that I wasn't the original person cast. There was a 7-foot guy, and they filmed the whole film with a 7-foot guy, right? And then in the 3 months leading up to the premiere, like 3 months out from the premiere, Peter Jackson was in the editing suites, and he just wasn't happy with the performance of Azog. You know, it was a 7-foot guy in a big suit, and obviously he was like lumbering a bit and kind of like, you know, they picked a 7-foot guy, and supposedly the acting skills weren't there. I was told later by the guys that I worked with, they said, yeah, well, you know, he was good, you know, he was the right size, but just didn't bring the energy or the you know, the suit was too cumbersome, the prosthetics were not great, you know. I mean, if you remember the orcs from, you know, Lord of the Rings, you know, when you came on an orc, it was like, it was this, you know, I mean, the makeup was good, but you know, you went really close, it started to fall apart. You know what I mean? And you know, the same would have happened with Gollum. You know, if you'd stuck Andy Serkis in prosthetics, can you imagine if he looked like a little prosthetic-y clay thing in his hand? My precious. His makeup would have been coming off one eye. You know, it's seamless. That's the thing with motion capture, you know. And you create the beast or the reptilian thing, you know, that's not human. You know, you escape all of that stuff that constraints us with having costuming or prosthetics on. You know, we're just not at that stage. You know, I mean, I don't think you could ever get to the stage where, as a human being inside of prosthetics or something like that, you could get it seamless. But with motion capture, you can get it almost there because it looks so realistic now. So But the difficulty with my landing it at the time that I did was that I was still in Spartacus, and I was on the second last episode of Spartacus. And my German manager from Los Angeles rang me and she goes, "Manu, we've been offered the role of Azog by Peter Jackson." I was like, "What?" She goes, "They want to fly you down this week." I'm going, "Ruth, I'm like filming like the second last episode of Spartacus." She says, "I know." I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" She goes, "Manu, they're not going to let you do it." I'm like, "Of course they're not going to let me do it. But we got to do it." She goes, "Manu, I spoke to one of the lawyers who's a friend of mine from the company, and they said, what we don't know won't hurt us." Like, what does that mean? "Manu, we're just going to go down and do it. And we're not going to tell anybody." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "Okay, Manu, we booked your flight. You fly down on Friday after the show, but don't say anything to anybody." I'm like, "Okay, what about the script?" She goes, "Well, Peter Jackson won't send any scripts out, so there'll be a script in the hotel waiting for you. They'll pick you up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You'll be on set at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then you have to become Azog." Shall we begin? So I get on this plane, like the blood on me still from the battle scene in Spartacus. Like, fly down there, I get to the hotel, they give me a script. I start reading these pages that are in black speech. I ring up, I go, "What is this language?" They're like, "It's black speech. It's black speech, Manu. We can send the dialogue coach over. She'll be there in half an hour, okay?" So this dialogue we're at 11 o'clock at night, we're going, "What does it say?" "Obak de knock. What? Nas? I'm sitting there at midnight writing out like the phonetical kind of translation of this German that I'm going to learn overnight, you know what I mean? I mean, thank God for my manager, because I knew how some of those sounds. And then also I got out Jaws and The Empire Strikes Back, because when I'd seen an image of Azog that they'd send me a really bad video game looking version of Azog, and he looked like a white shark to me. He looked like a white pointer. But one of the nice things that I picked up and I used from Jaws was the way of keeping the character hidden. Like I sort of kept, if you watch especially the first scene of Azog, there's these orcs come up into a tower, and I said, "Peter, can I have my back to the camera?" He was like, "What?" I said, "Well, can I not? When they come up and they come into the tower, can I be staring off into the distance somewhere?" I said, "They're just looking at my big back." And he said, yeah, sure. And then I said, "When I turn around, can I not look up? Can that wag? I've got a wag, haven't I? Like a wolf. Can that be on the stairs? Like you said, there's stairs here." So they painted my white wolf into the stairs so that I could walk up and keep my head down and pat it on the head. And then I said, "When I walk up to this little orc, can I play with his head like he's a kid?" I go like, "Oh, good easy, good enough. I sort of threw him off into the wags and they tore him to pieces. But I waited until the very last moment to lift my eyes and open my mouth and go right into the camera. Because that's what you do with Jaws. Right, so every scene I'd sort of pace it like doo doo. You know, it was this pacing.
You're scaring me up here.
It was music.
I feel like director?
Oh, he was awesome, you know. I mean, he's a real general, and I mean, he commands such authority, power, respect. In the studio, when Peter Jackson's coming, there's a 30-minute warning. And it's like when they did a test fire alarm in a hotel. They go, Peter Jackson will be in the studio in 30 minutes. And everyone goes, Peter's going to be here in 30 minutes. And everyone starts moving. And then it's like, Peter Jackson will be in the studio in 5 minutes. And everyone's like, it's like, Peter Jackson has entered the building. And suddenly this door opens up, and like a personification of Bilbo Baggins with a beard, with no shoes on. No shoes on. I swear to you not. Comes walking in, he's like, hey guys, and he just walks in. He's so unassuming, but he's got the weight of Winston Churchill or somebody quite profound, you know, just emanating from him. And then he sits behind this big console, you know, shoes off, you know, feet up on the desk. Okay, Manu, really like you on Crixus. Fantastic, good stuff, mate. Okay. You need any help here? You want it? And I'm like, yeah, Peter, this thing that I'm sitting on, what is it? And he goes, oh, it's a pommel horse, I know, but really it's a giant wolf called a wag. I'm like, oh, okay. Do I ride it much? Yeah, well, you're on in a few scenes in this film. Yeah, definitely. Especially the last scene of the film, you ride up against this big tree, and they're up the tree, so you're riding this wag, and you kind of do quite a bit of riding actually. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, do I have a relationship with the wag? And he went, what? I said, well, you know, like, is it like, am I like the Lone Ranger, and this is like silver, you know? He's like, that's interesting. I said, yeah, well, you know, like, can I have a relationship with it? Like, you know, maybe I went to the litter and I was like, oh, there's a white one. Oh, there's a white one. I'm the pale orc, and, you know, I'll have the white one. And I sort of groomed him, and now he's my wag, you know? And so they made the wag white. It was a great choice. We had this little conversation. So else started happening. It was like, let's turn this pommel horse. Because there was two guys holding this thing, and they were just moving me around like this. And then Peter Jackson, like, I'm in space, just like this guy. It's like, all there was motion sensors around the room. There was nobody there. There was no Thorin Oakenshield. There was none of the actors. All the actors had finished. They'd all gone home. Peter Jackson decided to make a CGI Azog. And all the post-production guys were having a heart attack. I'm telling you, there was these guys that they were the most stressed out people I've ever met in my life. They're all sitting there going, I've got 3 months to eliminate this character from the screen and put this guy in. But we actually got along really well. They loved what I did, and I love what they did actually as well. So I'm sitting there on this thing, and these guys are moving around, and Peter's like, okay, look, you're looking up, and there's a big tree in front of you, right? And like Gandalf, the wizard, has just found some butterflies, and if he blows them into a cone, they're going to go into fire, and he's going to throw those cones down now, and they're starting to land around all the wags, and everyone's going crazy. Okay, everyone, okay. Well, you know, you're there on your wag, and you're kind of like, okay, and you're sort of panicking a bit, or you got to figure it out. And Thorin's standing up. Thorin's standing up, and he's coming at you now. He's coming at you. You're going to have a big battle with Thorin Oakenshield. I'm just sitting on this thing, and you guys are going, where the hell's the tree? Where's Richard Armitage? Can we bring him? Can I have an actor? No. He's there on the roof coming down towards you. And I remember this one moment where he said that. He said, like, Thorin's coming down the tree towards you with his sword drawn. And I'm looking at the roof of this building going like, is that okay? I mean, talk about an out-of-body experience. Freaking hell. One of my favourite anecdotes of that whole scenario was when I first put the costume on, the motion capture suit. A guy came in who was like one of the technicians. He'd done motion capture way back to Street Fighter. You know, the video game? He was part of the original Street Fighter team. I think he was from Europe somewhere. But he came in and he was like, you were the same size foot as Andy Serkis. I was like, oh my god. Anyway, here are Andy's shoes. He wore these when he did Gollum. And I took Andy's shoes and I put them on. And that was a great moment. Just literally stepping into Andy Serkis' shoes. Into Gollum shoes and turning those shoes into Azog. Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, we have time for one more quick question. And over here in the flash hat, you had your hand earlier.
Quick, how did you feel for the first time when you had Super Deathstroke, or when you had it on for the first time? How did you feel?
When I auditioned in LA for the role of Deathstroke, it wasn't Deathstroke and it wasn't Slade Wilson on the page. And when I arrived in Vancouver Airport, literally a few days later, I got a message from my manager, and I was standing just near the front desk at the immigration counter where you get your working papers. And she said, it was Ruth, my German manageress. He goes, my bad German accent again. She said, Manu, they just announced your casting in Variety. If you look it up, there's a story about you being cast as Slade Wilson. No, what? I didn't cast for Slade Wilson. At the audition, it was like some military guy, and I think I don't know, Tony Daniels maybe. But it was not that name, you know. And I said, and I looked it up and I went, Ruth, I didn't audition for Slade Wilson, Deathstroke. And that was the first time I'd ever said those words. And the guy behind the immigration counter went, oh, are you playing Slade Wilson, Deathstroke? And I went, anyway, he's badass, man. He's like a badass in DC comic world. And I was like, okay. The first time I ever heard that character name in Deathstroke was the immigration guy at the airport. The first time I put the suit on, you know, it was like one of these moments. I was thinking again through my history as an artist, and I guess I was it was a moment, you know, it was a real moment, putting on a suit, you know. I remember the first time I ever felt like I'd accomplished a role as an actor was when I got cast in Xena, Warrior Princess. I got cast as Mark Antony. And it was only because of that role in 1999, I filmed it, came out in 2000. It's only because of that role that I got Spartacus. Because Lucy Lawless's husband, Rob Tappert, produced Xena and Hercules, and then produced Spartacus. And he said, we have an actor here in New Zealand, or, you know, I was floating between Australia and New Zealand. He said, we have an actor here that we'd like, you know, you guys to take a look at for Crixus, you know. So, you know, it's just all these costumes and outfits and whatever that you put on. There was this moment where I put on the Deathstroke outfit, right? And I remember just this flooding kind of connective tissue to my past. You know, one of the other things that I did just after my mother passed away was, I had a girlfriend at the time who was a ballerina, so she said, come and dance. And it was great. It was great that she gave me that invitation, and I took it, and I became good at pas de deux. I almost became a professional ballet dancer. I was good at picking girls up and doing the whole, you know, pas de deux stuff. You know, but really I was trying to get in touch with female essence. I lost my mother. You know, so doing all that stuff, the beautiful, soft, often melancholy, sad music, you know, was part of the healing for me, you know. So So at the moment when I was putting the Deathstroke outfit on, I've been, you know, plus I was a break dancer, you know, that Matthew Sisley hated me for, you know, my worst enemy from the hospital and all that sort of stuff, right? Who I became the best man at his wedding, right? So I'm sitting there in this moment, having this transition of time and whatnot, and I said, hey guys, when I put the mask on, notice the first time I've got the suit on, can we just keep the camera rolling? And the director was like, what for? I said, oh, please, just trust me. I can't say anything. Just trust me. So you know, getting dressed as Deathstroke, you know, it's kind of like you put your gun down here, you know, you have three big, you know, grenade launching things that I never used once. I never had a grenade launching gun, so why Deathstroke has got 3 grenades on his chest, I don't know. Maybe something they should just shoot me in the chest, yeah? Anyway, so I put that on, right? Put the sword in the bag, whoosh. Then I lifted the mask up. And I remember it was a really cold day. It was a really cold day in Vancouver. And so frost was coming out of my mouth, you know, like it was like I was getting frost, you know, is frost?
We're from
fog.
Canada, they know frost.
Fog, yeah. So this fog was coming out of my mouth, and I was like, this is really cool. So when I put that, I said, I'm going to look up in the light here, bring the mask down and go, and all the fog will come out here. And so I did this thing, and I went, and I put it there. And the camera kept on rolling, and I turned around as Deathstroke, and I went, If you look on YouTube, Deathstroke dancing, it's on there. And I swear to you, the crew and everybody cracked up. It was a classic moment. But it was a moment where I amalgamated all of my life kind of into that one moment. And it was awesome. It was awesome putting on a Deathstroke costume and taking another step in life, brother. Yeah.
Everybody, thank you for coming. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to listen to me. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Convention Junkies coverage of the 2018 Toronto ComiCon. Please like, comment and subscribe to see more. If you would like to help us with future projects, please visit our Patreon page.